Welcome to another edition of the Willy Bragg Show. I am Willy Bragg, and today we have Jen Perelman with us from Generational Change, and I'll let you introduce yourself to everyone here.
I'm Jen Perelman. I've been doing the Generational Change podcast now for a little over 2.5 years. So our mission technically is transforming politics into service, but what we're really trying to do is transform the world, just like one bit at a time. And I'm more interested in your little bio here, because I just Googled you and I'm looking at your description of yourself on Facebook, and I feel like you and I are twins. Because with the exception of the first online Bernie bro, you and I are basically identical. I thought that was kind of cool. Plus, I didn't know you were in North Carolina.
Yeah. Born and raised in North Carolina all my life. Yeah, I lived just outside of Raleigh, in Johnson County.
I was just there. Literally for the first time I went to Raleigh. I go to Asheville every summer. I've been in North Carolina every summer since I was little, but never east of Charlotte. And this year I went to Raleigh and spent a couple of nights there, and it was really beautiful. I was very pleased. So I'm a big fan of your state.
Okay. The only part of Florida, it doesn't count with the part of Florida I've been to, because I only been to the airport in Miami, the airport in Orlando, and that's my extent of Florida. And I guess that doesn't count, does it?
No, it doesn't. But you know what? Save yourself. There's no need for you to come here. You live in the good place.
Well, Ron DeSantis is not exactly helpful. I mean,
no. And honestly, everybody south of Lake Okeechobee should be heading for higher ground in the next 10 to 20 years. And I'm not saying that in an alarmist fashion. I'm saying that like there will be a freshwater problem here. So yeah, stay high and dry.
Yep. Actually, you're the third person from Florida that I've had on this show too, by the way. I had JB from RBN, Revolutionary Blackout Network, here, and I don't know. You ever heard of Nate's Garden?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, I've had him on this show. So there you have it, and all of that. So anyway, I first found out about you in 2020 when you did a primary challenge against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Yes.
Yeah, she's in some ways, though, for the opposition, she is the gift that keeps giving. Like every time she rears her ugly head out into public, whether it's to attack Matt Taibbi or question RFK, it's people that'll almost forget about her, people from other places, and then she pops out her head, and it's like a gift to us because it just reminds people what we're dealing with down here.
Yeah, I of course found out about her, with the shenanigans that was going on against Bernie Sanders, and then found out what she was doing. I found out there was some shenanigans down in Florida, and just like it, and it seems like any time there's an insurgent campaign, and and I'm like totally independent of the Democratic Party, but I'm not judging people who are trying to fight the good fight in the Democratic Party, but it's kind of like,
thank you for that, because we get a lot of crap and people don't understand that every district, every seat, everything is strategically different in how you have to approach it, and you really need to see it as what the big picture is. Yes, we're all on the same page, big picture. You and I are most definitely on the same page, big picture. But when we're looking at a local perspective, there are strategies involved in dealing with certain causes of the problem, people like Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And so in order to get to the big picture, we're dealing with this battle. And in a place where I live, if I weren't registered as a Democrat, I would have no participation in politics. There's no there. That is it in this district. So it is what we're stuck with. So I am affiliated with them in that I'm registered as one, because otherwise I'd have no vote essentially here.
Yeah, as I said, I'm not judging. I mean, I have a Jimmy Dore perspective on electoral politics without some of his judgmentalism. Let me put it that way.
Good. Well, I agree with them strategically. The Democratic Party is traditionally where people go to die. And if you're thinking that you're going to get in there and somehow change policy and do anything substantial in a legislative fashion, you're fooling people, you're fooling yourself. However, I do believe that there is another role that a lot of these people are missing because they're so busy keeping their seats in Congress. But when you have that platform and to not use it, and I don't like, you need to treat that 2 years like you don't care whether you win again or not. What can you do with that platform? What can you change? What can you help locally? What municipalities? Who can you help? And I think that needs to be more of the goal, needs to be a service minded instead of a policy legislative, because on the legislative issue, the Democratic Party is where people go to die. Nothing's going to happen there with that. And look, if I were sitting there as a congressperson, sure, I'd sign on every bit of progressive legislation there is. I would stand and say what I have to say, and I'd stand alone. And I get that, and that's okay. But the platform and the power of that is so wasted on these people, and that's what upsets me about it. Is that we need the people that are willing to bridge the outside and the inside. You know what I mean? People that are willing to give voice and recognition to people like Shama Sawant, and be out on the labor picket lines with people, and use the seat that way. So I just want to put that out there for people that are very critical, because not all of us are of the same mind of how to get things done. But so every district is different. Every candidate is different. And you really got to just know, not everybody wants a career in there.
Yeah, and the United States is a very large country, and is different from the rest of the Western world. I mean, honestly, it's kind of like here's the United States. If I'm in any country in let's say Western Europe, or even anywhere around any democracy around the world, it would be pretty easy for me. I would probably fit in any Labor, Democratic, Socialist, or Social Democratic Party around the world, or maybe some party to the left of it, depending on which country it is. But yeah, here's everything's difficult for the left, American left. They're in that dilemma all the time, and you got a lot of people
fight our own constantly. It's interesting because I get a lot of crap from your milquetoast Democrat, your liberals, about the shit that I say about the Democratic Party, and that I, don't fall in line with them, and I don't support Joe, and there's nothing in the universe. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I actually have a list of demands. And if Joe were to meet all of my demands, then I actually would vote for him. I'd have to. It would be part of our agreement. But my point is, they don't like that I criticize them, but I can't get to the Republican Party. I can't get where I'm from. We can't even fight them because we have to fight our own people to even get to where we can fight them. So why would I be all critical and judgmental of the person that I'm fighting 3 rounds from now when I can't get through what I'm dealing with right now? And that's the problem. Also, I can walk and chew gum. I can find both things equally repulsive. But it's I strategically have to deal with my own part. I can't control what the Republican Party does. I'm not a member of them. So I feel like the power in the standing is to criticize our quote unquote electoral left, because they're not left. They're right of center. This is absurd to me. And so I feel like it is incumbent upon me to continually point that out. That everybody sort of has their role to play in the resistance. And as somebody who is both Jewish and a registered Democrat, I feel like it is incumbent to use those things to fight within those beasts. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Well, as I said, it's kind of like I've been a Democrat in the past, and I mean, and here in North Carolina, the Democratic Party is very, very conservative. In the college, when I was in college, the college Democrats, they just rejected. I mean, I'm 54 years old, so this is in the early 1990s.
You're only 2 years older than me. You and I are the same age.
Yes, but you look like you're 35 years old.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, but as I was saying, though, I just kind of it was a very conservative environment with the college Democrats. They just rejected and this is when the Democratic Leadership Council in its infancy was Reaganizing the Democratic Party all over the country. I mean, and and Bernie Sanders. I mean, my position on Bernie Sanders, like I said, like you notice, I'm like the very first online Bernie bro, which I kind of can brag about that. I was fighting people to my left in the 1990s and the early 2000s about with the Bernie Sanders, whatever, regarding Bernie Sanders. Then I ended up fighting normie Democrats, which I knew a lot of them didn't like them anyway, but that's who I ended up fighting. And I ended up fighting people who were almost close to what I believe in politically, but for some reason they weren't going to go and toss their support to Hillary Clinton in 2016 or toss their vote to Pete Buttigieg or Elizabeth Warren or what have you, or what's it, Beto O'Rourke or what have you. I'm like, why? And Bernie has kind of, I'm a little sore at Bernie at the moment, but why I'm a little sore at Bernie, he's got receipts. He's been a fighter.
I have nothing but respect for Bernie. I can't stand when people say shit about Bernie. It's not one person's job to lead an entire movement of people. He always said, not me, us. He did plenty. The fact that we're even talking about Medicare for all now is because of Bernie Sanders. I will not abide that people criticize someone because they don't do every single thing that you want exactly the way you want it to be done. Pick up your own fight. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has a role to play, and you should appreciate what he has done. Because that's the thing. And there are many things I don't agree with. I would have loved for him to fight harder. I would have
me too.
Right. Like I understand that, but it's like any sort of anger or resentment toward him is absurd. And his place in history is pretty significant to me. He changed electoral politics in this country for a lot of people and woke up a lot of people. I mean, I've always sort of been involved, but for me, just watching what he did in general for the whole movement, it was huge. And I think people don't realize, like, how can we forget 10 years ago, even where we were?
Yeah, he started a national conversation that both parties and the mainstream media, especially the mainstream media, didn't want to have. But it was so terrible. The mainstream so-called liberal media was so terrible to him that even Fox News were kind of nice to him. I mean, how can you figure that out?
Well, because we spend more time fighting our own. That's what I'm saying. It's so, because what we've realized, truthfully, and that I'm speaking to the people that have realized this, is that we don't have our own in electoral politics. That doesn't exist. So what we're doing is we're trying our best to be like the minority party in the party. And it's not very effective. And we need to link that to all the movements on the outside. Because I think that's where it's really going to come from. But that doesn't mean I think we need to roll over and play dead in electoral politics. There's no reason to do that. But I don't think people should be putting all their eggs in that basket. I think it's just one strategy.
Now, I'm a hell of a lot less charitable toward the squad because they put up absolutely no fight whatsoever. And I've tried. I have tried. I have defended AOC very early on. And I would say maybe the last straw was last year, I guess, when she voted to bust the rail strike. I mean, I was just like, oh my gosh, how can you be a socialist and bust a rail strike?
And she's not, and she never was, and I think that was much more image and perception than was ever reality with her. I don't know Alex, I have not met her, but I also think a lot of it, and I've said this a lot with her, is age, maturity. And just where you are, like where I was when I was 26 years old, which is I think how old she was when she had started this journey. I wasn't where I am now in terms of courage of conviction and knowing where I stand on things. And I think that she also got very caught up in the life of it. I think that there's a lot of, it's very alluring to be on covers of magazines and to have this sort of like pop icon image. and get tickets to things and get to go. Like, I think that's very alluring. And I think when you're young and maybe it's like you're seeking to have a career in something, that your behavior is going to be very different than it would be, let's say, if you were somebody, our age. So I think there's just a lot. And I agree. I find it very disappointing. I looked at her like she could have been Katniss Everdeen. She could have been Katniss Everdeen. She missed an opportunity that will never come again. Right. Like, and I see that, and it makes me also sad about that. But yeah, I find them infinitely more disappointing as well. And not each that gets all the same. They're not a monolith. They're all different people. I have different levels of respect depending on who we're talking about.
True.
But like when I, as a Jewish person, see Rashida Tlaib standing there basically in tears, pleading with her colleagues to give a crap about what's going on to Palestinians, and there's not a single Jew in Congress standing with her, that just breaks my heart.
But didn't Bernie Sanders, didn't he open up a forum for her with what is it called, the NBKA? NBKA. I cannot pronounce the names. There was some incident, I guess, regarding the formation of Israel, where that the House rejected her speaking, but Bernie Sanders actually created a forum for her.
Yeah, I mean, look, notice how I said in her house, yeah, I mean, Bernie has been fairly decent on this, although not good enough, really, like as far as I would want my representative officials to be. But I'm just talking specifically about most recently when she was just standing there giving that plea about that ridiculous, what was it? Well, I don't even know I'm like totally drawing a brain fart. They all signed that, other than 9 people in the House of Representatives, basically collectively agreeing that a blood oath to Israel, and it's not a racist state, it's not an apartheid state, and we like basically swear allegiance forever and ever and ever. And the only people that didn't sign this, there were 9 in the House that didn't sign it, not a single Jew. And I, as a Jew, again, like this is starting to really freak me out. So this is sort of like my recent personal, like this is the hill I'm gonna end up dying on because it is just not okay with me that this is going on. And we have a Congress there are a lot of Jewish people in Congress that we don't know of, right? Just regular Congress people there's actually a disproportionately high number of Jewish people comparative to Jewish population. It's not surprising that are in Congress. And yet not one of those people sees fit to stand up for this. I find that either they're cowards or they're liars or they're both. I guess you could be both, but it's really offensive to me.
Yeah, on the whole Israeli Palestinian issue, and some people in my audience hate me for saying this. I mean, when I was younger, even as recent as a decade ago, I was still kind of a supporter of Israel. One time years ago, but I've seen the country move so far to the right, and this is not. And I have to explain this to make this clear that the country's moved so far to the right. I'm criticizing the government, not the citizens per se. And I have to kind of make that clear too, because I don't want people thinking there's anti-Semitism when I criticize Israel. I'm criticizing the action. So
Absolutely. Let's put that out there right now. That's something I reject entirely. Zionism and Judaism are 2 completely different things. Completely different things. Judaism has been around long before Zionism. Zionism is a white, Eurocentric, colonizing mindset. It has nothing to do with Judaism. The Jews have been basically being used by the Zionists to like propagate a settler colonial situation in the Middle East. I was raised a Zionist. I was actually I'm a second generation Jewish South Floridian. I grew up, my grandparents, everything was about Israel. And at 16, I went to Israel to a high school in Israel program. I was a very, very properly indoctrinated Zionist for most of my life. And the reality is we were lied to. My grandparents were lied to. Everybody's been being lied to. We weren't taught any of the facts of that situation at all. We weren't taught that. And that's the thing. I'm not saying excuse me for my ignorance, but it wasn't like now where we had access to the information. I mean, we're talking when we were growing up, we knew what we were told, what you could look up in a library book, like where did we get, you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like we had this access to information, but no. And I am spending the rest of my life basically atoning. Jews like that word. So there you go. Atoning for my sins of not knowing better and not doing better. So that's what I'm doing. But it is now, this is my position, is there, not only can there not be a two-state solution, because Israel killed that. At one point, maybe that was possible at one point. But I would argue that they've always been right-wing, as in that they are a settler colonial empire that is just an extension of us. And that we've been lied to about all of it. And I'm so angry about that. And if you're Jewish and you're not angry about being used by somebody else's agenda, you really ought to be.
Well, I have always said, I've said that actually the most dangerous Zionists are the Christian Zionists, the evangelicals.
Oh yeah, they are too. And what's interesting, right now I'm currently reading, I do audiobooks, so I'm listening to John Mearsheimer's book, which is it's the Israel lobby. And this book was from 2007, I believe. It's not new by any stretch, but I'm just really wanting to understand like the roots of AIPAC and all of that, because it's like, if you want to kill a beast, you got to kind of understand where they're coming from. But this whole notion of conflating Judaism and Zionism so that anybody who criticizes the state of Israel can be labeled an anti-Semite, all of that was part of a propaganda plan and continues to be a propaganda plan. They know damn well there's a difference between Judaism and Zionism. AIPAC has even said that they're not about Judaism. They've said that. But one of the things that has also happened has been this kind of unity between the evangelical Christian right and the AIPAC and the pro-Israel, even people that are the Democrats that consider themselves liberals on the left. And there is this unholy alliance regarding the state of Israel that is disgusting. And what's even worse about it from the Jewish perspective is the hypocrisy is just suffocating, because the Jewish people that are getting in with those Christian evangelicals can't stand them, think that they're ridiculous, think that like they would have nothing to do with them, have zero respect for them, and are merely using them for their flock so that they can continue to populate the state. Like it's just the most. It is literally an unholy alliance. It is disgusting.
I've always said
and
that
evangelicals don't give a crap about the Jews either. They don't care if they go to hell. They just need them all to be there so that when the rapture happens, everybody's where they're supposed to be.
I've always said that, like when Donald Trump pulled out of the Iran peace treaty, the one foreign policy thing that Obama did that was working and it was actually a good thing, and he pulled the U.S. out of that treaty. And I've always said that the reason why the evangelicals and the Bush Cheney neocons, which a lot of them are kind of one and the same, cheer this on is because a lot of them want to see Iran and Israel toss nukes at each other too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's not good for the Israelis. That's not good for the Iranians. It's not good for anybody. It's not good for throughout all civilizations and all of that. And let
me be clear too about that. When I'm talking about Israel, I am by no means talking about the citizens, because I know for a fact there are like the Israeli version of the resistance that we have here that doesn't like Netanyahu any more than we liked having Trump. So I know that the Israeli citizenry and the people there are not a monolith. They have many different thoughts and opinions about their own state. And there are just regular people over there just trying to live their lives that can't help that, whether or not they were born there or whatever the reason that they're there. And they recognize that they live in an apartheid state and they are fighting against it. So I just want to be clear, like nothing I say has anything to do with like people of Israel.
Well, for example, I would consider Meretz in Israel, the political party Meretz, as, allies. And I would tell people, don't look down on Meretz. They are they are the people to support because they are with the Palestinian cause and everything. And and I have to tell people when people criticize me when I criticize Israel, I have to tell them I am criticizing the treatment against the Palestinians. They're not allowed to have an infrastructure, and they have to drive on separate roads, and there's these checkpoints all over the place and everything. And what the hell else you can call it than an open air prison in a lot of cases. And
and by the way, for people that don't know anything about like Judaism, whatever, all of these things that we're talking about are the antithesis of like Jewish law and how to be a human being. That is why it is so imperative that we understand the difference between Zionism and Judaism. They are not the same. I do not want people equating Zionists with Jews, because that to me is one of the things that is leading to and perpetuating this increase of actual anti-Semitism. It doesn't do Jewish people any favors to be somehow ideologically attached to an apartheid state. So, and I know how that looks to a lot of people around the world, because I am someone who digs for information and gets informed, but we live in this like Western Euro Jewish bubble here, and people don't realize that this is not a good look.
Now, in connection to Robert Kennedy, seeing him in the last few months with this whole Israel thing, it's just kind of like, okay, if he would have never deleted that tweet where he was correct initially to defend Roger Walters over him dressing up as a generic goofy fascist from the wall, which that's what it was about. He wasn't dressed up as Hitler per se in Berlin. It was kind of just a generic fascist imagery, and everybody wants to go after Roger Waters, and I do not think Roger Waters is an anti-Semite for criticizing Israel, but he's so worried about his image that he went and deleted that tweet, and he has to go with all this rigmarole over explaining everything, and it's such a headache hearing Robert Kennedy going on and on and on and on about this and that and everything. And he's not like the worst candidate around. I do have some serious issues with him. I mean, his pro-Hillary Clinton positions. Look, there's a lot of things I don't like about him, but there's a couple of things I do. I mean, clearly when he comes out and says, like, on day one, he pardoned Assange, right, and whistleblowers and stuff like that, when in fact we know that is something within the executive's authority to do, that's a huge thing to me, because when these people get elected, there really is a finite amount of things they themselves can do. So to hear somebody saying, I would do one of those things and not just some platitude salad about some policy, I do like that. I also do like that he's called out the CIA. I think that for somebody to be our chief executive that has called out the deep state is pretty impressive. So there are things about him that I do like. But yeah, this sort of pendulum swinging the complete other direction. And I would like to attribute that to people like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, my esteemed congresswoman, and people like her in that Jewish cabal community that were so insistent on calling him out as anti-Semitic that basically now he felt the need to go jump in this completely Zionist direction. And I really feel like, and I've emailed him. We've also tried to connect with people on his team to invite him to have a conversation about this, because I think he's very misinformed. And what's sad about it is he could sit there and suckle up to AIPAC all he wants, and they're not going to do anything for him. They're not going to help you, Bobby. Not going to help you. So, most of his supporters either don't care about the issue or anti-Zionist anyway.
It's a stupid move, and it's not going to serve him, and it doesn't prove anything. I don't know. I just feel like the whole thing has been this chain of events that has been very flawed, and I feel like he's just very misinformed. I don't think he's like a bad person. I think that he needs to be properly educated on this, and so I have offered to arrange for him to speak with some very, very smart people on this issue. There's some very smart Rebbies that would be more than happy to properly educate him about this. But it's unfortunate.
I like the fact that he's pro free speech because, I mean, there are factions of the left, unfortunately, have tiptoe away from free speech. And, I'm kind of an old school, kind of have this old school ACLU mindset of free speech absolutism that I think is missing from today's left. And there's a lot of cancel culture that's a problem on the left that I felt like it was always a right wing creation that the left sort of co-opted in recent years, that the fact that he's addressing that also resonated well with me. So there are things about his platform I like. What I don't like about him, his Israeli stance, I'm not particularly keen on. His anti-Medicare for all stance, I'm not keen on, and his comfortable relationship with Hillary Clinton, I'm damn sure not comfortable with.
Yeah, well, look, in all fairness to him on that one, though, I mean, the guy was born a Kennedy. He was born with a relationship with Hillary Clinton. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is, and I'm not saying that there's no personal judgment involved there, but I mean, to some extent, he was born with that relationship.
Yeah, but that just hit me the wrong way because I have a beef with the Clintons. I mean, yeah,
they should be in prison. I don't understand how they are not in prison and how the Clinton Foundation hasn't been hit with tons of like RICO charges and money laundering and all sorts of stuff. That's my thought about the Clintons.
Yes. So that's my problem. Now with Marianne Williamson, there are people on the left that do attack her on this and this and that and what have you. I think that on some details and some policy questions like Robert Kennedy, she's very close, but just doesn't. She's still missing on a few details. But I think that overall, she, as a Marianne Williamson and Robert Kennedy, as far as the primaries are concerned, they're both better than Biden. They both got some things.
Everybody's better than Biden.
Huh?
Everybody's better than Biden.
Yes. They both got certain things missing. So, and for me, I mean, I have to be on Team Cornel West on election day next year. So, the Democratic Party is proving itself to be anti-democratic, and it's bad optics what they're doing, not having a primary. I mean, there is a primary, but they're not going to have debates, and what is that?
No, they're pretending. The Democrats are so not democratic, but we've known this. Look, just the whole concept of superdelegates. There's the Democratic Party is like this elitist ivory tower that it has become. Like, it has nothing to do with labor. It has nothing to do with working people. So why would they care about democracy? They don't care about democracy. And even let's assume they had a full, fair, open primary. Let's say that they had an open whatever, and these were the three people that were in it. It really wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's still going to be Joe, and he's still going to lose. So it's sort of like, I mean, in this particular case, it's, to me, at 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah.
And I'm with Cornel at this point, too. I mean, I would love to see Jesse Ventura get in for the Libertarian Party. I think that would shake some shit up big time. I think between him and Cornel, that'll make a statement. And I think it could get a lot of, federal funding for parties, which is important. But yeah, Cornel, there is nobody I'll be with in our mission, like in my mind, then I feel like I'm with him. That's not going to change no matter what. I mean, that is what it is. And he's in this for the exact reasons that I ran. It's so interesting. Like, I love when he's talking about when everybody's telling him, you're a spoiler and you're this and you're that and you can't win and whatever. He's not in this to win. He knows that. Like, he's brilliant. He doesn't need people to tell him that. He's in this for all the right reasons. And that's to be part of this movement and propel a movement that is the revolution. And anybody who doesn't see that is obviously not part of the revolution. But, this is a snowball thing. And I also think it helps down ballots, especially in places that have Green Party, that have ballot access and have actual candidates for things. I think it's really good for all sorts of things to have a grassroots campaign. And he is not about him winning that seat. Not only that, he doesn't particularly want the job. And I love that, because he represents exactly, like, how he talks about running is exactly how I felt about running. It has nothing to do with, wanting that job. It's wanting to speak truth to power and wanting to take a stand for people. That's what it is. I wish I didn't have to. I wish I had a congresswoman that wasn't a complete corporate whore. I do. Even if I had just sort of a milk-toast, feckless congressperson like most of people do, I probably wouldn't have run. But no, she has to go and be the most disgusting, vile, corrupt, like, representation of a Jew in the, like, I cannot think of a worse person.
Well, I wouldn't hold that against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I mean, the fact that she's just a Clintonite is bad enough for me.
Yeah, well, there is that. I mean, look, she really was banking on getting like a Secretary of State appointment, and that was part of the game. And really, and she knows that she's reached her cap, Debbie. She can't go anywhere. She's not getting any higher office. She'll never get elected again. She only sits there because we have like a 14% primary voter turnout in August, and very few people have to vote for her to sit there. But yeah, she's not going anywhere else. And I'm glad that she hitched her horse to Hillary Clinton. Good.
But that's how I found out about your campaign, and I told a friend of mine that a few days ago that I'm interviewing you, and told him all about you. I was like, it's a damn shame, that Debbie Wasserman Schultz is in Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene's in Congress, yet Jen Perelman is not.
That's really sweet, because it's funny you should mention Marjorie Taylor Greene, because how I would envision myself being in Congress. It's so funny. Like, I joke about this all the time. Imagine if Marjorie Taylor Greene, like how she was in terms of sticking out and getting attention and all that. But imagine if it was Shama Sawant, right? So like, imagine the persona of someone who's using their seat to get media, get attention, do all this stuff, but they were actually using it for the thing. Like, that's how I would be. Like, that's how I would see myself. I would want to be like, I would be like a Shama Sawant with a Marjorie Taylor Greene attitude. That's kind of how I feel like I would be. What are your thoughts on that?
Were you familiar with the Amazing Atheist?
Oh yeah, we've had him on a few times. I love him. Love him. TJ.
Yeah, TJ. You know what he said during the second Bernie campaign? That his critique of Bernie. He says the only thing he doesn't like about Bernie, he's a little bit too polite. He would like to see his ideal candidate would be somebody with the policies of Bernie Sanders, but that really dismissive kind of fuck you attitude to Donald Trump. This kind of rude. The bull in the China shop attitude and everything.
That would be
awesome.
That would be me. And what's so funny is that Democrats have failed to utilize that like the Republican people do on their side on so many levels. And they're missing such an opportunity because they're so stuck in this like policy quagmire when nothing's going to get done there anyway. The only way you're going to get stuff done on the inside is if there's a million people standing outside demanding it be done. So it has to come together. And the people on the inside, on the Republican side, they get that. They know how to work with their outside to get what they want done, to get the media, to get the pressure, to get what they want done. On the left, we're all sitting there like talking about each other online and criticizing each other online. Our representatives are basically like, like going, what else can we do for you, Sir Joe, even without any concessions? So it's like there is nobody inside on the Democratic side that uses their platform the way they do on the right. And I find that sad.
Yeah, it would be nice to see if the squad could be to the Democrats what the Freedom Caucus. I hate the fact they call themselves a Freedom Caucus, but they're not. But the Freedom Caucus on the Republican side, it would be. I would have loved it if the squad could, just be again that bull in the China shop.
We need that. That was one of my biggest hopes when I was canvassing for Nina was feeling like, okay, if we could get Nina in there, not only is she the bull in the china shop, but she'd get all of them to be behind her. You know, like that was my thought. Like in Jen's dream universe, Nina gets the Congress and is sort of like that final straw, the catalyst that brings up the squad and the revolution, and they rise within, right? Like this was sort of my thought, and that she was a very needed voice there. So, you know, that was what they need a kick in the ass.
Yeah.
They need to not be scared about losing their jobs, and they need to not be worried about that as a career. Newsflash, it's not supposed to be.
And AOC promised that when very early on. She's like, you know, she was like, we're going to go and raise a ruckus. And she did very early on. I mean, when I saw her doing that sit-in at Nancy Pelosi's office, I'm like, this is what we need. Thank God. And then all of a sudden, you know, little by little.
Mama bear.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I mean, like, for example, I was the very first. Now, I'm not going to hold it against the original squad for endorsing Biden. I voted for Howie Hawkins. I got some problems with Howie Hawkins, as it turned out. I don't like his position on the Russian-Ukraine conflict.
I didn't vote Green. I voted Green in 2016.
Yeah.
I reluctantly voted for Joe. Will not do it again.
Again, I don't judge people.
Oh, it was not. I don't brag. Trust me, I'm not proud of it. It was not a fine moment for me.
Yeah, as I said, I don't judge people for voting for the Democrats. Either the vote, if they think that's the way to go, that's the way to go. If they think inside outside is the way to go, that's the way to go. If they think, if they're accelerationists and say F the Democrats, you know, whichever, let a thousand flowers bloom is the term. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we got to see what works. You know, that's basically what it comes down to. But what was I saying? I was going somewhere with this. What was your last point?
I don't even look. You're asking like the 52-year-old pothead about like what I said 5 minutes ago. You know, it's just. I think that what we need to do when we're looking at these people, first of all, they're all just people, these squad, these are people. And like, we need to be aware that no one person is going to always agree with us and do what we want them to do. And I think that the best way to look at it is, are these people still fighting for the same mission? Are they fighting for the mission? Is somebody doing their part? And if they are, whether it's inside or outside, I think we need to give them grace. I hate the fact that everybody is judgy about what if somebody is doing something with like an open heart and on the right mission, and they're fighting for the things we're fighting for, give them grace to do it their way and see what works. Because if we really knew how this worked and how to do one thing that worked, we'd be doing it. So and different things work in different places. It bothers me that we judge other people's contributions. Worry about your own contributions.
Yeah, as I said, we got to, you know, as I said, I feel like we're at a place where everybody's like 90% on the same side. You know, I mean, we're talking about the politicians even the politicians that we have voted in there. I think that they have meant well, but I think that some of them, they like the cocktail parties, and they like the media attention, and they want to move up. And
I'm begging you, people, start voting for people who don't want to be there. I'm telling you. You want to vote for people who don't want to be there. You want to vote for people that see it as service. You want to vote for people that don't want that life. You know what I'm saying? Like it's one of the key things I look at. That's one of the reasons, you know, people like Cornel West are on the level, because you know they're not in it for the life. If they're not, it's not about that. And when you can tell that, that's the most important factor. Whether or not you agree with someone on everything, that's not the issue. It's, is this person in it for the right reasons? Because if they are, then they're going to listen to reason, and they're going to work with other people. And that's the key thing, which is why there was people that I like there's Republican people in my life that I don't have a problem with. I can get along with all sorts of people. Go onto a picket line And you'll see you're going to have a half Bernie supporters, half Trump supporters. Not a lot of Hillary people, but the labor community is very diverse in that way, and we need to understand that. Absolutely. And it's only going to be through that sort of coalescing from a class perspective that we're going to get anywhere. And I'm not saying that we can't also address racial issues, LGBTQ, like we can do all those things. But we need to stay focused. We need to stay focused on the class war.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing right there. See, the right in this country, they think I'm too woke, and the actual SJW minded left think I'm not woke enough. And I have to, it's kind of weird. Some people think I'm not woke enough because, again, I'm a civil libertarian that won't cancel. I don't believe in cancel culture. But to the right, they think I'm the purple hair, anorexic 19-year-old calling everybody a sexist, racist, homophobic, whatever, smelling like soy, if I don't know.
Yeah, it's like you can, but what's the left, or our political left, has really adopted this over wokeness as somehow that's symbolic of being a proper leftist, is to be properly woke. And in order to be properly woke, all of these things should offend you and hurt your feelings. And as a result, when we hear those things, we have to protect the people, and our feelings matter, and protect the people from that kind of language. And we have to, so it's almost like they've taken this concept of being so tolerant to the point where they're intolerant. And it's so weird to me. I agree. Like, so that's why, to me, they could say that they're left, but they're not left. They're not left. I've always been free speech absolutist. Like when you were talking about Roger Waters, and I don't feel the need to qualify why he was dressed the way he was dressed. I don't care if somebody wants to dress up like Hitler and march down the street. I also wouldn't necessarily be averse to like a bunch of Jews beating the shit out of you, but I support. I don't need to agree with what people are saying. I don't mind hate speech. I don't like it. I'm not going to sit around and listen to it, but I think we need to know who those people are. If you quiet the hate speech, all they do is crawl back into their holes, and then you don't know who they are. How does that help?
Well, I like the deplatforming of, Alex Jones. Okay.
I was opposed vehemently.
Well, this is where I stand on Alex Jones, and I'm going to share you a funny story about Alex Jones in a minute. Okay, I don't agree with Alex Jones on, let's say, pretty much 90% of everything. There's 10% where he's correct, like he'll be anti-war and stuff like that. He'll be correct, and he did support Occupy Wall Street a decade ago. I'll give him that. The Sandy Hook thing, all that. I mean, he was wrong. They shouldn't have deplatformed him. They should have just taken those videos down where people's lives are being threatened and what have you. Just take the videos down. That's all they had to do. But here's the funny story. I actually had a nightmare about Alex Jones once.
I can understand that.
I was in Texas in this dream. I was in Texas, and I had a Bernie Sanders t-shirt on. And he saw me, and he looked angry, and he rushed toward me. I was like, get my ass kicked by Alex Jones, and he looked like he was going to headbutt me, and then he ran right around me and ran past me, and he was like, "Move out of my way! I'm trying to save this republic." And I was like laughing, and it was because I had my laptop on when I came home from work, and it went on autoplay years ago when he was on YouTube, and he was like, I was laughing. I was like, I had a nightmare about Alex Jones.
That's not good. I don't want to watch any of that, but I support their right to say whatever they want to say. Honestly, unless somebody's calling for imminent violence, it's all free speech to me. I don't want to hear it. If you don't like it, turn it off. If you don't want your kids to be around it, protect your kids. I don't know what to tell you. I refuse to sacrifice my liberty to protect your feelings.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing on the left. And that's the people that don't think you're woke enough. These are people that are too caught up with their feelings. I don't care where you are on the LGBTQIA, straight, whatever spectrum you are. I don't care about your feelings regarding policy. I care about your feelings in my personal life, and I wouldn't want you to have hurt feelings very deeply. I care, I do. But when it comes to policy, I'm really a fuck your feelings person. It's just not how we need to be governing. And that's part of the problem. And the left feels the need to be more concerned with feelings than with liberty. And I cannot abide that. And I would like to take that back, because I feel like, when did we lose that on the left? Like, when did that happen? Because I would argue that we, people who believe that, are the left, and the people that are the kind of in the middle of that with their feelings are not actually the left.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the pearl collecting and all of that. That's like 700 Club, Jerry Falwell,
Yes.
in the 80s,
Exactly.
And instead of a Bible is soy or broccoli stock or something like that. I mean, it's just the SJW sort of replaced the Christian right in that regard. And there's still a problem with the Christian right in this country. I mean, somebody telling me they're not and for a while it looked like they were sort of creeping away, but now they're back, and they're really back with this Christian nationalism nonsense. Well,
both of these things can be true. That's what I love. It's like people love to have this dichotomy, like there's a good guy and a bad guy, there's the right and the wrong and whatever. And it's so interesting, because to me, I say, they're all wrong. It doesn't matter. Like, you're just choosing degrees of wrong, or who's wrong on more things than other things. But both things can be true. The Christian right can be a problem on the right, and overwoke, touchy-feely, snowflakey to about their feelings can be a problem on the left. Like, both of those things can coexist, and they do very well. And then there's people like me, who I'm in the same boat you are. Like, I am completely civil libertarian. I have no problem with the Second Amendment. I'm not jumping on with the gun control thing, and I get crap from the left on that.
Same here.
Yeah. So, but we are the actual left. I believe that. Like, I am about power to the proletariat. Mind your own business. If it's consenting adults, keep your whatever, and that's it. I don't want the government regulating, patrolling, policing, whatever. The government is there to subsidize and support. I have a whole different perception of what it should be that makes me believe I'm on the left. And so I refuse to give that over to these milquetoast people with hurt feelings that are not the left. I reject that.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes there was a time years ago I was asking myself, what's happened to the left? Where did the left that I used to know? Where did they go? I mean, I felt like they were in
hiding. We're in hiding. We've been in hiding.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, we're around. We're just not. We just need to make our voices heard. And so it's just bad PR with some of these people. Some of them well-meaning, some of them are well-meaning, but it's just bad PR. It really is. And
it's the system that's the problem. Sort of like when we talk about, well, there's good police. It's just a bad system. And it's the same thing with the political system. It's, yes, there are good people in it, but the system itself is so inherently corrupt and oppressive in so many ways that even good people in it are no match for it. Whether or not they get kind of co-opted or they're just ineffective, whichever. But I think it is important to look at what the intention is behind them, what their mission is, because there are very well-meaning people that are doing the best they can within the system. People like Bernie, who has gotten things done left and right that most people don't even know about. Amendments and stuff that he's put in, things that he's been successful in doing, and also being able to get along with everybody. That is, and especially for what I have heard as a grumpy old man, is pretty good and impressive. I think that I hate when people get judgy about other people. Everyone's Monday morning quarterbacking on so many things that they just don't understand. They don't know. You're not privy to the right information. And I do believe there are people that are well-intended, people like Bernie, that are in this for the right reasons. And yes, he likes his life and he likes his job. And yes, he has a couple of houses because, you know what, why not? But do I think that he's a good man on the good mission? Yes, I do. And I think that he's done a lot of amazingly good things. So I hate when people get judgy because it's like everybody just wants to look for the bad stuff.
Yeah. Well, people want to be overly judgmental, and sometimes I have gotten frustrated lately with Bernie, and I mean I have gotten frustrated and all of that. And as I said, it's just like the conversation started, and I was halfway optimistic that we were going to get somewhere. And I think that even though, let's face it, what happened to him in 2016 happened to him again in 2020. Not just to him. I mean, in 2020, it also happened to Tulsi Gabbard, and the it makes another reason I hate Hillary Clinton. She pushed Tulsi kind of to the right, into a right direction when Tulsi's two Hillarys left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we could probably write like a thesis on the reasons that we hate Hillary Clinton. We could have like I'm sure there are I hate Hillary groups out there. She's just, and another one who's a gift who keeps giving. Every time she rears her disgusting head out, I feel like it just reminds people how disgusting she is. And she's still out there. It's about me. I was cheated. Get the hell out. Give her the hook. That's what my mom used to say. Like she'd have this like vaudeville thing in her mind. Give her the hook.
Yeah, I mean, she had to. I don't want to use the. I have to be careful with my words with regard to the primaries because, the algorithms may detect words, and this
is why we don't do well on our show. This is why we get demonetized. This is why, because I don't know how to deal with any of that.
Yeah, I've had my channel shut down for. I'll tell you, I got my channel shut down for a week last year because I commented on the election in 2000, with the voter chads and everything. But YouTube thought I was engaging in election denialism in the year 2020 and misinterpreted my words and gave my channel the zap for a week.
You realize that even if you were talking about what they thought you were talking about, that's still fascist and that they would shut you down anyway. Like the whole thing is, I hate it. I mean, I do think that we need to have this be a public utility.
I do. I've always, it's
out of control because what I should be allowed to talk about whatever election denialism crap I want to in my, and we do, which is why my channel is stuck where it is stuck.
Yeah, my channel has been stuck where it's stuck. Too, I got a little bit of a boost working for a small little independent network for a while. So and that's been kind of helpful for my channel. And and there are ways, that people can actually boost up their channels and everything. Have you thought about Rumble?
We are on Rumble, and we're on there now. We're actually working with. We have a producer that's helping us. Actually, we have Colin, who is Jordan Cheriton, Status Quo producer, is actually helping us too. So he's taken us on. I think he feels sorry for us, but so he's helping and he understands this stuff. So for the first time, we have someone who understands that behind the scenes YouTube algorithm shit, and that's pretty recent. But it's still not going to change the fact that they don't like the stuff that we talk about and the stuff that we cover. And that's ultimately at the end of the day what our problem is.
Yeah, and I think that maybe a decade ago, many of these channels would have gotten a hell of a lot further up in subs and everything, because a lot of channels are like deeply hidden in algorithms. They don't even let people know that they're about to go live, for example.
Right. For example, yeah, that's us. We're very shadow banned is what Peter calls it. He's like, we're shadow banned, but we are. And, look, it didn't help that like in the first year of our show, I did a giant live stream for Julian Assange.
Yeah.
That didn't help us with the algorithm very much, but it was really good though. It made me pleased.
Yeah, I went to the Assange rally last October at the Department of Justice. So
I was just there in May.
Oh, okay. Oh, I wish I would have gone, but
it was birthday. It was, oh, no. That was in July. I'm sorry. May 3rd was when I was there. It was World Press Freedom Day, International Press Freedom Day. And that was that protest. And then there was just a recent event that was on his birthday in July. I'm like getting everything mixed up. But yeah, I was there for World Press Freedom Day. But yeah, I think that's what started it for me on YouTube, was the Assange activity. And so I kind of feel like I will wear that as a badge of honor for the rest of my life, that I got shadow banned for defending Julian Assange.
Yeah, I've got a couple of videos on Julian Assange myself, and it could be that's why I'm shadow banned.
It's one of the things that it's one of the things that will get you like red flagged, for sure. I don't know. I'm sure there's others, but I know that you cannot, like, anything about Julian Assange will take a hit.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just like I think there's like you said, there's like a list of subjects that they have, and they're like, you're flagged, and that's it. Yeah. I mean, you're branded. I mean, they're out to get you, and all. I would
argue pretty much every position I take is on their flag list.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if I'm talking about Medicare for all, I still don't think they like it, but maybe I'm not in trouble for that.
No, you're not in trouble. But I did a series called Deconstructing Zionism. I'm pretty sure they didn't like that either.
Oh yeah, that would be controversial and
everything. Oh yeah, it would. And and the irony is that it shouldn't be at all. So yeah. Screw them. Because this is not, stuff that should be taboo. It's just called facts. And they should try to incorporate them sometime. It really helps in policy, I find, to use facts.
Do you have time to talk about Florida with regard to Ron DeSantis?
Sure.
Yeah. It seems like every time I watch the news or read an article or go online and it's dealing with Ron DeSantis when he's not running for president, it's like he's trying to devise new ways to take away rights from people. And I'm hearing people on the right say, oh, Florida's where all the freedom's at, thanks to Ron DeSantis. I'm like, Ron DeSantis makes Donald Trump look like a card-carrying member of the ACLU in 1988, where George Bush criticized Michael Dukakis for.
Yeah, it's interesting because it is freedom for bigots to be bigots, right? Like, so there's definitely this new freedom for people to be bigots, but it is a very scary place right now for women and for people that are in the trans community. It's very scary right now. And actually not just that, but anybody whose kids go to public school that are being wrongfully indoctrinated, I would argue it's also very problematic. I'm trying right now to figure out a way to bring that AP African Studies course that DeSantis banned from being able to be used in high school, and bring it here privately and have it be paid for so that people can go and take it for free. So there's different things that I'm trying to figure out how to get those things to people without it being through the public schools, because that's heavily concerning to me. I feel like we were already so misinformed to begin with. And now that we know to then go back to misinforming, it's not okay. It's not okay at all. So I have a problem with that. And I feel bad for any of these parents. By the way, it's parents' rights. They always argue, this is the perfect thing. They argue parents' rights when it comes to banning books from these schools, from the public school libraries, and from the curriculum, that it's the parents' right to decide what their kids learn about. So we don't need a teacher mentioning their spouse if they happen to have a same-sex spouse, because it is the parents' right to educate their children about what it is to be gay, if they even mention that at all. Who knows? That's their right. However, when it comes to medical care for your child, it is no longer your right as a parent. Now it's the state's right to tell you and your doctor what they can and cannot do for your child based on the opinions of non-medical people. So that's what's interesting. So yes, parents' rights to ban books. Parents do not have rights to get gender affirming care for their kids. That is both of those things were the same session. mind you. And that complete contradiction in the same session regarding what is a parent's rights. So what about the rights of the parents that now have to take their kids to another state to be able to get the treatment that they need? What about their rights? I guess they don't have rights. But yet the parents in the school have a right to take out the Jazz Jennings childhood book because they find that so offensive to their children. That's those parents' right.
Well, here's the thing about Ron DeSantis with this "Don't Say Gay" bill. And here's the thing. I regard George W. Bush as the worst president in my lifetime. The worst.
The worst.
Yeah. And worse than Donald Trump. And that, the shit libs hate it when I say it, but it's true.
Biden's worse than Trump. And they don't want to hear that either. So, there's that.
Well, I'll put it this way. Trying to start World War III in the Ukraine. I will say that if there's one area where I think Trump will be better, if he would, I think that I'm not going to vote for Trump. I will never vote for Trump. But if Trump gets back into the White House, I think that that's probably the one area where I would think he would actually do a good job at resolving that issue between Russia and Ukraine. Of course, naysayers will probably be like, "Oh, I knew it. Willie is a Putin puppet. He's spreading Russian misinformation here on this program again." Anyway.
Yeah, I love that. No, I mean, people, because what they want to do is they want to look at the persona, and they hate Trump's persona because he is disgusting. Let's be real. And they don't want to look at actual facts. And what I always tell people is if I were to write down on a piece of paper basically the resume without the name of what they did while they were in office. And I did Trump on one side, like a bunch of the good things, a bunch of the bad things, on the Biden side. And I showed it to people and I said, which one of these two people would you vote for? Most of these people that support Biden would pick the Trump one because they don't know what they're talking about. And that's the problem. They're looking at it just based on the popularity contest and not based on actual actions. And people like you and me that follow this are more aware of actual actions. And it isn't just about like this cult of personality. The Trump is disgusting. He's been disgusting. I remember thinking he was disgusting in the 80s.
He's funny.
Yeah. Oh, he's entertaining, but
goofy.
He's not the problem. As much as they want to say he's the problem. No, what they really need to be looking at is what created that opening that like, it isn't a problem that Trump is in the race. The problem is, why does Biden suck so bad that he couldn't just easily beat him? That's the problem they need to be focusing on in their own party. And all they want to do is fearmonger about Trump. But it's not going to work this time. It's just not going to work this time. I think people have seen it. But yeah, I'm sorry, I got digressed from Florida, but Florida is definitely its own little political shit show. And I want people to understand about Florida is that we are not a red state. We are not. We are a purple state with heavy civil libertarian leanings that has been hijacked by a red cabal in our state capital. That is what is wrong with Florida. But we are not a red state. I want people to understand that. We, the same year that Donald Trump was elected here, voted for a $15 minimum wage in our state. So we are a fairly populous state in the rural parts especially. And it bothers me that we're being our legislature does not represent us, I assure you, any more than you feel like your Congress represents you, right? Like our state legislature is despicable. We're gerrymandered to the hilt. We have a very small resistance in Tallahassee that spends 99.9% of their time on defense for shit that you can't imagine how bad the legislation would have been. And so that's the thing. We're being held hostage here in Florida by some right-wing evangelicals that have gotten their tentacles in our legislature.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I look at Ron DeSantis when I think about George W. Bush. It's like I see Ron DeSantis as everything I despise about George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, and everything that the shit libs, that everything that's real and projected about Donald Trump without the comedy show. Yeah.
Basically. But I do feel like ever since, oh God, I mean, we really thought he would be like a front runner at some point, you know, in this, and he's just really gloriously imploding, which is nice. I'm pleasantly surprised, but he's not going to get anywhere at this point. He's just not. And as soon as he signed that 6-week abortion ban, which I believe will go into effect sometime in October or something, like I forget when it goes into effect, the 6-week ban will go into effect. We will be living under that for at least 12 or at least 15 months. And that's assuming everything goes well and we can get the ballot initiative passed and get our rights back. We're going to be living under a 6-week abortion ban here in Florida for over a year, best case scenario. And people need to be aware of that. And it's extremely scary. We're already seeing women that are having to wait with ectopic pregnancies until they explode before the doctors will be willing to go in and perform the procedure. So you're actually willing to risk women getting septic because of this is the kind of crap that we're going to start seeing here. We're going to have such an increase in women and infant mortality rates in this state. It's going to be off the chart. And there will be unfortunately, it'll be too late for so many people, but we will be able to draw a parallel between this ban and an increase in our death rates. And that's what's going to happen here. I urge people, if you have daughters here in Florida, send them out of state to college, get them out of here. Get them out of here. This is no place to be. I mean, I honestly, and I find myself wishing ectopic pregnancies on the daughters of all of those legislators that put this through, because it is not what they think it is. They're so backwards in their thinking.
Yeah, the nickname for him is Tallahassee Mussolini.
Yeah, I mean, but be aware, he's just the top face of it. There is a whole network of it in our state house. There is a state senator here. Her name is Erin Grall, Grall. Feel free to harass her in a troll-like manner as much as possible. She is the woman. She is the state senator that is always standing behind him when he is signing anything having to do with protecting like fetuses. This is the woman who put forth the parental consent bill as a representative. When was that? I think it was 4 years ago. And is always one of the biggest proponents of these types of bills. So my point is there's a whole group of them. It isn't just Ron DeSantis. He's just the little figurehead at the top. And I do think that his real ultimate where he'll end up being is challenging Rick Scott at some point. Yeah, Marco Rubio. Like, I think that when this implodes, that maybe he'll, seek a Senate seat, because he'll still have pretty good name recognition statewide, even though as soon as he signed that ban, this is what I was going to say. As soon as he signed that 6-week ban, all of the major Republican political people in Florida, all the Congress people, the Republican, got behind Trump. As soon as DeSantis signed that 6-week ban, they all coalesced and endorsed Trump. So that's a sign. If your own people are not going to get behind you. So I don't think he's ultimately going to go anywhere.
Okay. Yeah. For some reason
we're stuck with him here is my point. I don't think the rest of you will have to deal with him.
I hope not, because I tell you, I mean, I told people that I never really suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. However, if Ron DeSantis become a president, I won't vote for Biden, but and I'm not going to be the reason he won, because North Carolina is a red state. It leans purple, but it's still a red state. So my vote for a third party is not going to matter. If Ron DeSantis becomes president, I will not recognize him.
I don't even think he'll get the nomination.
Yeah.
I don't even think he'll win their primary.
I hope not.
He's not looking good right now for it. He's not looking good right now. And I think Ramaswamy is picking up some serious momentum and some speed. I think
he's scary too.
He is, but he's a lot more appealing to people for sure. And he absolutely presents a lot better than DeSantis. He just does. He comes off
more personality.
Better. And he doesn't have a draconian history to point to. And that makes a big difference. When you don't have a legislative history to point to, you're still an open book. Like, people don't really know.
A lot of people should also realize that Ron DeSantis is a war criminal too. In Guantanamo.
Well, and I do think that if he were getting to the point where they felt him to be a threat anywhere in his own party, even, they'll start putting out more stuff about his time at Gitmo. And I think that is stuff that really needs to be brought up, is that he was there as a human rights lawyer, which to me, the concept of having a human rights lawyer at Guantanamo Bay is sort of like a Jews for Jesus oxymoron. But he was actually there and was witness to, condoned the torture that happens at Guantanamo Bay. I mean, that's a really big deal. We're not just talking about someone who served in the military and was just like, following orders. This is somebody who was there as a legal person and basically gave the okay to whatever, I can't even imagine, disgusting nonsense goes on at Guantanamo Bay. So I think that is important. And I do think that will come up if he gets to where people fight, because the Republicans will Trump would use that against him in a New York minute.
Yes, he would. Yeah. Yes, he would. Yeah, as I said, I hope he doesn't become president.
It's not going to happen. It's our twisted fate in Florida to be stuck with people like that, like him, like Rick Scott. We get all the freak shows down here.
Oh well, I lived in North Carolina all my life. I had to hang my head in shame over Jesse Helms for many years, and
that's bad. Yeah, that's a bad one.
Yeah, and there's a lot of younger folks. Jesse who? And I have to explain to them who he was and everything. And
you guys still had Matthew Ho as a senator.
I voted for that man. Yeah, I voted for him last year.
He and I had dinner when I was in Raleigh a couple months ago.
I met him at the Assange rally last year.
He's good people. He's very good people.
He had 29,000 votes last year in North Carolina. So, and I interviewed him too on my program.
Yeah, he's nice. He's a really nice guy. Yeah.
We actually, Matthew and I know the same people. We know the same activists in Raleigh. So
I'm sure it's a small community. I mean, if I know most of the people like Florida that are active, I'm sure that in Raleigh, everybody probably knows everybody.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, small world. So
yeah. And Erica Smith also, I really liked her.
All right. Is there any final thoughts or anything else you'd like to add?
No, it was really nice talking to you. I feel this is a very safe space, because a lot of times, like a lot of the stuff I'd be being called like, communist, and, I need to like put my manifesto in the chat, but I'm getting further and further to the left. It's like it's interesting. The older I get, I feel like at some point, what happens if I fall off on the end? I feel like if I keep going over to the left, I'm going to like fall off. That's what's going to happen to me. But, I don't know where it's going, but I feel like this is part of the revolution. I'm trying to have a revolution.
I see myself as I'm still basically the same social democrat that I've always been, but I've been a little more. I've developed a more anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist worldview in my. As I said, obviously 20 years ago, this Iraq war was immoral and everything. I was opposed to all that and everything. Yeah. And I think history repeats itself with this Russia-Ukraine conflict. And some of the Republicans who are kind of correct on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So a lot of people say, oh, now they're pacifists.
More than the Democrats are. More than the Democrats.
But in the China-Taiwan conflict, they sound like the same old Bush Cheney neocons, on that issue. So they're not as pacifist as people think they are.
Well, not one Democrat. I forget when we had Medea on recently, she mentioned who the Republican was.
Medea Benjamin?
Yeah, we had
her too.
She was on, and she was talking about this letter or that was that it was a Republican senator was putting together, basically demanding from Joe Biden certain answers about what the plan is for Ukraine in terms of, we're approving this money. We want to know what is it, like, just wanting some answers, wanting some accountability. Not a single Democrat would sign on this. Not a single Democrat would sign on asking. And we're not even talking about a piece of legislation wherein you're making the money's already there. We're talking about a request for transparency about something that we're giving you billions of dollars to do. And not a single Democrat could get on that. Why is that a Republican thing? That's crazy.
Yes.
If Medina Benjamin is sitting on my show and she's having to work with Republicans to something is very awry.
Yes, it is. And, the thing I have to tell people, about the whole thing about Ukraine, because the Ukraine is one of the most corrupt governments in Europe. Yep. It's actually more authoritarian than Russia is. I'm no fan of Putin, in spite of what some people have accused of me.
They have very fascist parts of in Ukraine. Like, there is seriously a Nazi situation going on there right now that we're funding it.
And they celebrate Stefan Bandera, who collaborated with Hitler. And they banned 13 political parties, banned oppositional media, suspended elections, banned the Russian language, banned the Russian Orthodox Church, committing ethnic cleansing of ethnic Russians in the Donbass region, treat the LGBTQ community far worse than they do in Russia. And I have a problem with how they are treated in Russia.
That's not good there either. But this is another one of those things where both things are true. Both things are true. But to act like we didn't provoke and push and prod and basically be wanting this for so many reasons. Look, the military-industrial complex is never satiated. It is never satiated. So if it wasn't this, then it'll be Taiwan. If it isn't that, we're going to be dealing this shit in Northern Africa is going to be a disaster of gargantuan proportions that the white people think that they should go in and handle. And it's just, this is bad. But the Ukraine issue, I only see Democrats full on in support of this shit.
I also think that part of the reason why we're there also is to cover up with the Hunter Biden situation. And also Hillary Clinton really believes in her mind that Putin put Donald Trump in the White House. And I always thought Russia was goofy.
No, Hillary, you're the one who put Donald Trump in the White House. It's so simple. She's just so delusional. Talk about like a very psychotic, narcissistic personality. Almost to the point where she's like the friggin' queen in Snow White, just almost like a caricature that really just cannot get out of her own way and does not save herself. She is the reason that she lost. She's a shitty person. She's a shitty candidate, and she should be imprisoned. And Trump is also those things. Like, I'm not, again, both things can be true. He is also those things. I don't like him either. I've never passed a vote for him. But yeah, no, she is why she lost, not Putin. And also, by the way, I don't care what language my oligarchs speak. I've said it a million times. Your imperialism, your world order, your oligarchy, the language and the borders that's not the relevant issue here.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hey, I've got to go. I'm sorry. I'm getting a call. Is that cool?
Not a problem. Listen, okay. I'll tell you what, if you want to ever come back on the show again, you let me know. Okay.
Okay. Anytime, actually. Like, seriously, I'd be happy to come and chat with you. It was really nice.
And I got all your information down on the description box below, and I will talk to my people here, and I'll let you go.
Thanks, Willie. It was nice talking to you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right, folks, here on the chat line, we have Matthew Bruss. I think I know this guy. RFK is no better than Biden. It's not better than Biden. I didn't say he was a hell of a lot better than Biden. Slightly better than Biden. Yes. Here we have Dumb and Dumber. I just can't decide which is which. I guess that's a compliment considering the source. Let's see here. Great guess, Willie, says Netrum Case. And how are you today? And we have here Herschel, the presidency was taken from me, quote unquote. Yep. Yes, Hillary Clinton felt that way. She sure did. So anyway, listen, everyone. I am Willy Bragg. That was Jen Perelman. She all her information is listed below. If you like what you heard, press like and comment. Comment any ways you disagree with what I have to say. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As the First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we are the muckrakers of our time. Reject corporate media and follow me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and Rumble. I did a live stream on Rumble, but it's not showing up on Rumble right now. However, I'm going to go and make sure it will be live stream on Rumble somehow. So anyway, there's that. And what else I'm going to say? Yes, a quick announcement on premiering September 1st at 5 p.m. Braglands will be a new program. It's on the description box also below. Jimi Sunderland and myself will be co-hosting. And it's going to be a variety show, 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, from roughly 5 to 7. We'll be discussing politics. We'll be discussing, just current events. We'll be discussing entertainment, life in general. And that's what the show is going to be about. And so that's, and right there below is the Twitter and YouTube link. There will be a Twitch and Rumble page added in a couple of days. So what else I was going to say? I guess that's going to be pretty much it. So everyone, y'all have a great day. And I will talk to y'all later. At 4 p.m. this afternoon, I will be interviewing Dolores Pierce from who's the host of Around the World with Dees and Friends. So take care. Bye-bye.